because it's one of the words that you know who used when he was talking about me in particular. You hired me 4 times and you didn't know what you were getting? How dumb are you?
And stand on that fact. I have always said, I come to work, I smile, and then I go home. Well, thank you for watching. Hello everyone. The tension between Donald Trump and The View reached new heights this week as the former president used a campaign rally to launch fresh attacks against the long-running daytime talk show and its iconic co-host, Whoopi Goldberg. The political firestorm erupted when Trump criticized The View's recent interview with Vice President Kamala Harris while taking personal shots at Goldberg's comedy career, calling her decades-old stand-up material foul, dirty, and unfunny. Before we continue, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you. The remarks immediately put the ABC program in the spotlight, setting the stage for a fiery rebuttal from the show's outspoken panel during their next broadcast. As the co-hosts gathered around their famous circular table, the atmosphere crackled with energy as they prepared to address Trump's latest provocation. Whoopi Goldberg, the show's moderator and most visible Trump critic, led the charge with her signature blend of sharp wit and unflinching candor. Here we go again. Goldberg began, rolling her eyes as the audience erupted in knowing laughter. The man who famously said, "Grab them by the wants to lecture me about what's appropriate in comedy." Her sarcastic tone underscored the hypocrisy of Trump's criticism, while setting the tone for what would become a wide-ranging discussion about political rhetoric, media bias, and the evolving standards of comedy. Sunny Hostin quickly jumped in, highlighting the irony of Trump, who has avoided tough interviews throughout his political career, criticizing The View's journalistic approach to the Kamala Harris interview. Let's be clear. Hostin said, leaning forward for emphasis, "This is a man who only does softball interviews with friendly outlets. The fact that he's attacking our conversation with the vice president tells you everything you need to know about his relationship with the truth." Joy Behar, the show's resident comedian and Trump antagonist, couldn't resist adding her trademark zinger. He's obsessed with us. We live rent-free in that orange head of his. Maybe if he spent less time watching our show and more time preparing for debates, he wouldn't keep losing elections. The discussion took an unexpectedly poignant turn when Goldberg addressed Trump's criticism of her comedy career with a mix of defiance and vulnerability. The Oscar-winning actress and comedian explained how comedy has always served as a mirror to society. Look, comedy changes with the times, Goldberg said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Lenny Bruce. These were pioneers who made people uncomfortable because they told the truth, and yes, sometimes that truth was raw or profane. But that's what comedy does at its best. She paused before delivering the knockout blow. And let's be honest, if we're talking about foul language and inappropriate behavior, I'm not the one who got caught on a hot mic bragging about sexual assault. The audience burst into applause as Goldberg sat back with a satisfied smirk. Alyssa Farah Griffin, the show's conservative voice and former Trump administration official, provided crucial context about why the former president continues targeting The View. This is pure political theater, Griffin explained. He knows his base eats this up. By attacking the so-called liberal media elite, especially a show with powerful women who challenge him, He's reinforcing his outsider narrative. Griffin's analysis highlighted the calculated nature of Trump's attacks, suggesting they were less about genuine criticism and more about rallying his supporters. The conversation then expanded to examine the broader implications of Trump's ongoing feud with the media. Sarah Haynes pointed out the dangerous precedent set when public figures attack journalists and entertainers alike. There's a difference between criticism and targeted harassment, Haynes noted. When you're the former president of the United States, singling out specific media figures, that has real-world consequences. Her comment referenced the increasing threats faced by journalists in recent years, drawing sober nods from her co-host. As the segment reached its climax, the panel debated whether to continue giving oxygen to Trump's provocations. Beher argued that ignoring him wasn't an option. He's the likely Republican nominee. For God's sake, she exclaimed. We can't just pretend he's not there. Goldberg agreed, but added an important caveat. We're not going to stop calling out his nonsense, but we're also not going to let him dictate our agenda. That's exactly what he wants. The show's producers cleverly punctuated the discussion by playing a montage of Trump's greatest hits against the View over the years. A visual reminder showed that this feud had been simmering for nearly a decade. From his complaints about their coverage of his presidency to his personal attacks on various co-hosts, the package underscored how The View had become a consistent thorn in Trump's side. In the final moments, Goldberg brought the conversation full circle with a characteristically wise perspective. At the end of the day, this isn't really about me or our show, she reflected. It's about whether we're going to have honest debates in this country, or just endless personal attacks. We're going to keep doing what we do, having tough conversations, challenging power, and yes, sometimes telling dirty jokes. As the audience rose to their feet in applause, the message was clear. The View had no intention of backing down, no matter how many insults Trump hurled their way. The episode served as a microcosm of American political discourse in 2024. Combative, personal, but ultimately revealing about the state of the nation. For 27 seasons, The View has thrived at the intersection of entertainment and hard news. And this latest clash with Trump proved why the show remains must-see TV for politicians and ordinary Americans alike. As the credits rolled, one could only wonder what the former president would say in response and how long it would be before The View fired back yet again. In America's ongoing culture wars, some battles never truly end. They just take commercial breaks. The audience was appalled. Literally, jaws were dropping in the room. JD. Clearly you've not been to one of your boss's rallies, one co-host remarked. Because you believe this insanity. He has been inciting violence since 2016, telling them to beat up hecklers, threatening to shoot looters and migrants. I don't remember Bill Clinton, she began, trailing off while referencing past controversies about what was going on in his White House. Later, the atmosphere grew tense as Whoopi Goldberg took center stage to address Ohio Senator J.D. Vance's recent inflammatory comments regarding the 2 assassination attempts on former President Donald Trump. Known for her no-nonsense delivery, Goldberg did not hold back as she dissected Vance's rhetoric, which many critics argue has contributed to a dangerous political climate. The discussion quickly escalated into a broader debate about political violence, accountability, and the responsibility of public figures in shaping public discourse. Goldberg began by replaying Vance's remarks, in which he suggested that the attempts on Trump's life were not isolated incidents, but part of a larger pattern of political persecution. She pointed out the recklessness of such statements, emphasizing how they could incite further violence by framing political opponents as existential threats. When you're a senator, your words carry weight, Goldberg asserted, her tone firm. You don't get to casually throw around accusations that could put people in danger just to score political points. Her co-host nodded in agreement, with Sunny Hostin adding that Vance's comments were particularly irresponsible given the already heightened tensions in the country. Vance's comments set off alarm bells among the panel. The conversation then shifted to the broader implications of his rhetoric. Goldberg drew parallels to other moments when political leaders used inflammatory language, only to see it manifest in real-world violence. She referenced the January 6th Capitol riot as a stark reminder of what happens when politicians stoke the flames of division without considering the consequences. We've been down this road before, Goldberg said, her voice tinged with frustration. And every time, it's the same story. People get hurt, and the ones who pour gasoline on the fire walk away unscathed. Joy Behar chimed in, questioning whether Vance truly believed his own rhetoric or was simply pandering to Trump's base. It's one thing to be a loyal supporter, Behar said, but it's another to actively contribute to a narrative that could get someone killed. Sarah Haynes echoed the sentiment, noting that Vance's comments were especially troubling given his background as a former Marine. You'd think someone who served would understand the value of de-escalation, Haynes remarked. As the discussion deepened, Goldberg turned her attention to the media's role in amplifying such rhetoric. She criticized outlets that give platforms to incendiary statements without proper context, or push back, arguing that this only serves to normalize dangerous discourse. We have a responsibility to, Goldberg said, addressing her fellow journalists. We can't just air these comments and act like they're harmless. We have to call them out for what they are. The segment also touched on the psychological impact of this kind of rhetoric on the public. Ana Navarro, guest hosting for the day, expressed her concern about the growing acceptance of political violence as a means to an end. When you hear this stuff over and over again, it starts to seep into the collective consciousness, Navarro said. Before you know it, people start thinking it's okay to take matters into their own hands. Goldberg concluded the segment with a direct message to Vance and others who engage in similar rhetoric. If you really care about this country, you'll stop with the fear-mongering and start working toward solutions, she said. Otherwise, you're not a leader, you're just part of the problem. The audience erupted in applause, clearly moved by Goldberg's impassioned plea for accountability. The episode served as a powerful reminder of The View's unique ability to blend sharp political analysis with heartfelt commentary. While the show is no stranger to heated debates, this particular discussion struck a chord with viewers increasingly concerned about the state of American democracy. As the credits rolled, one thing was clear: in a media landscape dominated by soundbites and sensationalism, The View remains a rare platform where complex issues are given the time and attention they deserve. Whether Vance or his allies respond to Goldberg's critique remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: as long as public figures continue to push dangerous narratives. Voices like Goldberg's will be there to hold them accountable, and in today's polarized climate, that accountability is more important than ever. Yeah. So, South African President Ramaphosa paid a visit to the White House yesterday, which turned into laughter, a surprise presentation on conspiracy theories about a so-called white genocide in his country, between ambushing Zelensky. And this, one co-host quipped, "Why would world leaders keep coming to the White House?" The atmosphere on The View turned electric as Whoopi Goldberg launched into an impassioned monologue, dissecting former President Donald Trump's recent ambush-style encounter with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Goldberg's voice carried equal parts fury and disbelief as she recounted how Trump had reportedly cornered Ramaphosa at a diplomatic event to air personal grievances about his legal troubles in the United States. Let's be crystal clear about what we're seeing here. Goldberg began, her signature rasp cutting through the studio's charged air. This wasn't statesmanship. This was a grown man throwing a tantrum on the world stage because he can't handle being held accountable like every other citizen. The audience erupted in applause as Goldberg's co-hosts leaned forward, recognizing they were witnessing one of the show's signature blistering takedowns. Goldberg meticulously reconstructed the incident, detailing how Trump had allegedly commandeered what should have been a routine diplomatic exchange to complain about his for criminal indictments and the so-called witch hunt against him. Imagine being the leader of South Africa. Goldberg continued, her hands punctuating each point. You come to discuss trade, climate, global partnerships, and instead you get an impromptu therapy session from a man who thinks the whole world revolves around his legal problems. The audience roared at Goldberg's impression of a bewildered Ramaphosa, listening to Trump's complaints, which brought much-needed levity to an otherwise serious subject. The conversation took a sharper turn as Goldberg connected Trump's behavior to broader concerns about American credibility abroad. This is why people laugh at us on the world stage now, she declared, her voice rising. We used to be the adults in the room, the steady hand. Now we're the country that produced the guy who interrupts state business to whine about his court dates. Sonny Hostin quickly chimed in, highlighting how Trump's actions undermine years of careful diplomacy with African nations. South Africa is a crucial partner on so many fronts, Hostin noted. And here we have a former president treating their leader like his personal sounding board. It's embarrassing. Goldberg then pivoted to what she saw as the most dangerous aspect of Trump's behavior, his apparent belief that the presidency should shield him from legal consequences. He thinks that badge makes him king, Goldberg said, her voice dropping to a more serious register. But here's the civics lesson he keeps failing. No one is above the law in this country. Not the guy who sweeps floors, not the lady who drives the bus, and certainly not some reality TV star who got lucky in 2016. The studio audience burst into sustained applause as Goldberg's words seemed to articulate the frustrations of millions of Americans. The discussion grew more intense as Joy Behar drew parallels between Trump's ambush of Ramaphosa and his broader pattern of using international platforms for personal grievances. Remember when he tried to get Ukraine to dig up dirt on Biden? Behar interjected, this is the same playbook, treating foreign leaders like they're his personal fixers. Asterisk Sarah Haynes added crucial context about how such behavior damages America's standing, noting that diplomats spend years building bridges that Trump seems determined to burn. Asterisk a particularly powerful moment came when Goldberg addressed the racial dynamics at play. Asterisk let's not pretend it's a coincidence that he feels comfortable accosting the leader of an African nation like this, she said, her tone turning pointed. There's a long history here of certain people thinking they can treat African leaders with less respect, and we all know it. Asterisk the comment sparked a vigorous but thoughtful exchange about how race intersects with international diplomacy, with the co-hosts sharing personal anecdotes about witnessing both subtle and overt racism in global politics. Asterisk as the segment reached its climax, Goldberg delivered what would become the show's viral soundbite. Asterisk here's the bottom line. If you can't handle being out of office without harassing world leaders about your legal problems, maybe you shouldn't be allowed back in the Oval Office. Asterisk the audience leapt to their feet in one of the show's rare standing ovations as Goldberg sat back, clearly satisfied she'd made her point. Asterisk the conversation concluded with a sobering reflection on what Trump's actions mean for America's future. Alyssa Farah Griffin, the show's conservative voice, offered surprising agreement with her liberal co-hosts. Asterisk this isn't about partisanship, it's about basic decency and understanding how diplomacy works. What we saw was fundamentally unacceptable from anyone claiming to be a statesman. Asterisk as the show transitioned to commercial, the lingering camera shot of Goldberg shaking her head in dismay seemed to capture the mood of a nation weary of diplomatic drama. The segment would go on to rack up millions of views online, with political commentators praising Goldberg's ability to articulate why Trump's behavior matters beyond the immediate spectacle. Asterisk in true View fashion, the host had taken what could have been a fleeting news item and turned it into a profound discussion about accountability, diplomacy, and the very meaning of American leadership on the world stage. The episode served as yet another reminder of why The View remains must-watch television in politically turbulent times, offering equal parts sharp analysis, cathartic outrage, and the occasional well-timed joke to make the daily political circus slightly more bearable. Asterisk as for Trump's response to Goldberg's takedown, that would have to wait for his next rally or Truth Social post. But one thing was certain, The View would be ready with a rebuttal when it came. Asterisk Goldberg has lost it, one commentator sneered. The host of The View is now convinced that Elon Musk and J.D. Vance are secretly plotting a coup against Donald Trump. Asterisk who is in charge? Because I've been saying it for a while, Goldberg responded. Asterisk yes, you have, a co-host agreed. Asterisk I've been saying that I think Elon Musk believes he's president. I do. Asterisk well, you were calling him vice president. Another co-host interjected. Asterisk I've called him vice president. I've called him president because I don't know what JD is doing. I hardly ever. I don't remember the last time we even talked about JD. Asterisk you're right. The co-host replied. He's planning the presidency for when they get rid of Trump. Asterisk so you think it's Musk Vance? Asterisk possible. Asterisk MHM. Hey, you. Know what? Stay away from stairways. You know people put a leg out to trip others down the stairs. Watch out. Asterisk what began as a routine discussion about Republican politics quickly escalated into one of the show's most provocative exchanges this season, with Hostin laying out an intricate theory about a potential shadow coup unfolding within the MAGA movement. Asterisk I'm just saying what everyone's thinking, but too afraid to say out loud. Hostin declared, leaning forward with the intensity of a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. There are too many coincidences here to ignore. Musk's sudden embrace of right-wing politics, Vance's meteoric rise, and Trump looking increasingly like a pawn in someone else's game. The controversial theory took shape during a segment analyzing Musk's recent political donations, which have increasingly favored far-right candidates, coupled with Vance's abrupt transformation from never-Trump intellectual to one of the former president's most vocal defenders. Hostin connected the dots with the precision of someone who had clearly been researching this theory for some time. Think about it. She urged her co-hosts, Musk buys Twitter, sorry, X, and suddenly it becomes a haven for Trump supporters while shadow-banning liberal voices. Vance writes a memoir about leaving the Republican Party, then does a complete 180 to become Trump's potential vice president pick. These aren't organic shifts, they're chess moves. The studio audience reacted with a mix of gasps and applause, while moderator Whoopi Goldberg's raised eyebrows suggested even she was surprised by the direction the conversation had taken. Joy Behar, never one to shy away from a political conspiracy theory, eagerly jumped into the fray.